Hey guys, I am here to address some more yoga questions today for my people. And we're going to start with alignment and form. This is a huge deal to me. More than anything else in my yoga practice, I am a huge stickler with form. In fact, I worry that people might get sick of hearing me talk during my yoga class as though I'm explaining too much what to do, but it's so important to me that people don't get it wrong and hurt themselves that I kind of go over alignment and form. My first experience with yoga ever as a child, I was 17 when I started interest in yoga, was with the Iyengar method, BKS Iyengar, and he was huge into form. And so much so that sometimes it annoys people. But once you practice your yoga form correctly for years and years and years, you start to forget about it, where you don't even have to worry about it anymore. You've got such good form and you've rearranged your body in such a way that it's become second nature. It might not feel like second nature at first, but it will someday, I promise. So stick with it and stay with me. I'm going to teach you a few basic things that you can hopefully add into your practice anytime you go to any studio. Whenever you're with different teachers, I was always taught this, and it's a great tip. No matter what you know or what you think you know, listen to the teacher in that particular class. Even if it's against what you think, always listen to what that teacher is teaching you. But more than that, listen to your inner teacher. We've all got inner teachers. And so if I tell you, or if any teacher tells you, to come into Trikonasana, and it doesn't feel right to your knee to do that today, don't do it. Listen to your inner teacher more than you listen to any yoga teacher. So starting off, I'm going to put us all in mountain pose, and this can get a little repetitive and boring and irritating sometimes. That's because we're realigning your body. Most people will have knock knees or bow legs, hyperextended joints, or not able to extend correctly, shoulder issues. We've all got it in a million different ways, and doing these alignments will fix your body, and it's not always a comfortable process. But we have to do it for therapy. I always say that yoga is like physical therapy for a healthy body before you've been injured. And if you have been injured, it's like your physical therapy. So do it with me. Try to embrace patience through it. And again, one day it will become second nature and you will have healed your body, your skeleton, your life. So starting in mountain pose, we're going to go through some basic alignments in the body that I go through in my yoga morning practice that I've got on my YouTube page. I go through it again, but I'm going to go through it first here today too. Starting in mountain pose, I was taught to have your toes and the bunion part of your feet together. Where bunions are, that's the only bone I know how to explain it to most people. If you have your toes and heels together, this causes an outward rotation that we don't want. A lot of teachers will tell you, get your feet together, put your toes and heels together. I was taught to have your toes together, but to have your heels about an inch apart, that is the most straight and right way to have alignment. In yoga, we try to lift all 10 toes up off the floor, and the reason for that is to bring energy and awareness out to the toes. Now, if you can't do that, look down. Which toes don't come up off the floor? There's going to be a reason for that, and the reason that we care is because our toes are connected to bones that run up your feet, that are connected to the ankle, that run into your leg, that run into your knee, and then your legs run into your back. It's all connected. Your feet matter. Ever hurt a toe? You can tell how it affects the whole way you walk and you carry yourself. So we start with awareness in our toes and our feet. So, hastas, padas. So push the balls of your feet into the ground, inner and outer. Think of your arches. Lift your arches. your inner and your outer arches. Push the inside and the outside of your heels into the ground. And then again, remember that lift through the center of the feet where your arch naturally should be. If you don't have an arch or if you feel flat-footed, you've got to work on correcting this. And you can. It takes time. If you've already got quite a high arch, make sure you don't supinate or pronate. Try to find balance where you're pulling up evenly, pushing down evenly through the inner and outer energy of the legs and the feet. From here, we want to think about the shins. You want to think of an outward rotation going on in your shins. You want to stop bending your knees backwards to hyperextend. You want to do a microscopic bend to your knees. So we're not hyperextending and locking the knees. We're also not bending them. It's in between. It's called a microscopic bend to the knees. You want to think of pulling upward on your kneecaps, thinking of an inward rotation of the thighs. Outward rotation of the shins, inward rotation of the thighs. Doing this right now should make your muscles very tired. That's what you should feel. From here, that will make your hips kind of angle forward and splay out a little bit. You want to keep those energies and spirals going in your legs while you tuck your tailbone. This will create perfect alignment in your low body and prevent any injury. So even if you're in a pose like this, you still want to be thinking of those loops and spirals going through your legs, the rotation of the thighs still rotating inward. When you're in any position in yoga, I don't care if your knee is lifted like this, you want those same alignments always going. Tailbone tucking, hips lifting but tailbone tucking. This draws energy into the pelvic floor and the lower belly. And then you want to think of lifting your rib cage up and out of the waist so it's not sinking, crashing down. You want to lift up through your whole entire rib cage, which goes from your spine to your sternum. It's 360 degrees around your body. The shoulder loop. You want to think of pulling the shoulders slightly up and back, just slightly. Shoulder blades lovingly come together towards one another on the back, not squeezing or forcing, just drawing towards one another, and then drawing the shoulder blades down the back. So you're standing like a soldier at attention. It's called the shoulder loop in Anusara Yoga. So think of shaking out your shoulders, get loosey-goosey. Lengthen your rib cage up and out of your waist. Remember your leg alignments, your tailbone tucking, and roll the shoulders up and back. Why? This will support a full yogic lung breath. So 100% of your lungs can be supported by these shoulder blades, allowing them to breathe fully. So sternum wants to think of lifting towards the throat. The chin wants to gently come down towards the sternum. You want to have a soft diaphragm. Even though we're lifting and trying to get this great posture, you want to think of softening your diaphragm and strengthening this lower belly again. You want to think of that shoulder loop. You want to think of lengthening through the top of the back of the neck and all the way to the crown of the head, coming down all the way, a line of energy up the neck, across the crown of the head, down to the forehead, nose coming down towards the chin, the jawbone drawing back towards the ears. So as though you're standing against a wall behind you and you're kind of pushing your head gently back straight onto that flat wall. That's what you want to feel. The jawbone gently drawing back towards the ears. We are in now the perfect mountain pose where when you start to move, you will maintain these alignments as you go through yoga. So, only other thing I want to say is to help people with the beginning alignments, a form of yoga, of course, whenever you do a lunge, you want to make sure your knee stays right over the ankle. A good yoga lunge, you want to try to have a perpendicular shin to the floor, knee right over the ankle, and then you want your thigh to be parallel to the floor. That's hard. It's a 90-degree angle. That's hard. You might not have that right away, but work toward it every time you practice. You want to think again of that same pushing down and lifting through the arches of the feet when they're on the ground like this. And you, let me think, where was I going with that? Lunge. Oh, when you're, like, let's say you're in Warrior Two. If you look down at your front foot with the lunge leg, inward spiral of the thigh, tuck of the tailbone, the only toe that you want to see with that front foot that's bent is your big toe. That makes it so that your knee is in the right alignment and it's not twisting in or out. The biggest mistake I see in lunge students or poses that we do a lunge and they're new students is that this back leg is bent. You want it solid like a brick wall. Slightly locked knee. You always want that microscopic bend to the knee, but you want a little bit of movement going on in the knee. You don't want it to be locked back. You don't want it to be bent though. And when your foot is at a 45-degree angle in these positions, you don't want it to roll, supinate in or out, supinate or pronate. You want to drive the outer edge of the foot into the ground and think of lifting, again, lifting the inner and outer arches. So your feet are so important, and I see people crashing and falling and burning with their poses, and that will not set up a whole entire healthy body. The stomach is the other thing I want to discuss. I don't think most yoga teachers teach enough core attention and core focus. So in every single pose for about 15 years, I did yoga like this, easily with my arms and my legs, not thinking of all the power I had dwelling within my belly. This is the center of your personal and physical power. Everything should shoot out from your stomach strength. Start here. Keep your belly strong. Keep your tail tucked. Keep your life force vital coming from your belly. This is so important. You won't throw out your back if you keep your stomach strong in every pose. So again, I'm in this strong back leg, nice lunge. What you'll also see in many, many yoga poses is the right foot turned out or one foot turned out, one foot turned in. There's two ways to line your feet up. You can either line your ankle and heel of your front foot up with the heel and ankle of the back foot. Feel that for a minute, either in a triangle style pose or a lunge. Or you can line your heel of your front foot up with the arch of your back foot. Everybody has a different set of hip bones. Everybody has a different curvature of their spine. See what feels more natural to you and do that every time. I do both. I go back and forth depending on the position. If I'm in triangle, I tend to line up my feet with my heels in one line. And I come down. Now, I'm hypermobile. I was born that way. It's not from yoga. I can lean all the way down here. I can touch the ground with a flat hand. It's not in my body's best interest, so I keep my hand on my shin. I keep my heels in one line for triangle pose. I also used to forget to tuck my tailbone all the time. All of those alignments I went through first, you have to do in every standing pose. Another big mistake I always see is people's shoulders will sag in triangle. You want to pick them up and hold them in the shoulder loop. Pull them back behind you. Same thing goes for like the revolved prayer position. People will extend their arm up, like the more advanced pose, and their shoulders sagging down. You want that shoulder up and back, okay, in any pose that goes like that. And so I think I've pretty much covered it all, but that last piece is when I go into a lunge pose, instead of having my heels in one line, I put my heel in line with my arch, and that feels more natural to me. Triangle, I keep my heels sort of in one line. That feels more natural to me, and it activates my core a little bit more. So these are the beginning, the basics. I want you to comment with questions. Let me know if this helped you or not, and I promise it will feel natural one day, even if it doesn't feel natural now. Go be free and do lots of yoga. Namaste.